So, how is everybody today? Hope you're all enjoying the sun. After a little bit of rain, the trails should be mint tomorrow. Hopefully Sunday, going riding. Don't know where yet, but I'll go riding. Need a bit of a shave on my COVID. Haircut's not doing very well. Definitely need to get to the barbers when they reopen. So here's my beautiful 2017 Enduro. I think it came in a really good colourway in that particular year. I think the following year they went to black and pink. Bad choice, I think. But anyway, what have we got? What can I tell you about this bike? It's probably more bike than I'll ever use. Although I've bottomed the suspension out a couple of times, but that might be just because I'm fat. But anyway, I wanted something that would handle what I could throw at it, and that's what it does. It does handle a lot. It is a beast of a bike, very capable. There's some good points about it, mostly good points about it, but there's some other things that wasn't quite so good. 170mm front and back. Got the RockShox piggyback shock, and it's got the stupid, I think it was quite stupid, sag adjustment setting, because it operates a bit funny. You press it and it goes up, and then you keep on pressing it again and it goes down, because you're meant to put like 250 psi in it first and then mess around with it, bounce up and down. But anyway, and then it was a Lyric 170mm. I think they're 32mm stanchions, I don't know. I've done some modifications, but we'll get to them second. So when I had the bike, it came with the Specialized Butcher tyres, and I hated them. It was like dragging around a bag of dead cats. It really was. I think I had to get used to the bike as well, but it was just slow to respond, slow to turn in. It wasn't very sharp. As soon as I went over to the Maxis, it just turned in lighter. It was a lighter bike. Rolling resistance was much better. It was a much faster bike on the Maxis. Single case on the front, set up tubeless with Stan's Pro Sealant. The back is a double case. Get away from me, tree. Maxis Minion DHR2, double case, all the grippiness that you want. Pressure wise, 21 on most places. Cannock Chase 19. So pebbly, I just need to feel the grip, and you just don't seem to get it until you go down to 19. 2.3 front and back, and excellent. I love them. When I went from the single case to the double case, I thought the double case was a bit slower, but I don't feel too bad on it now. It might have been because it was absolutely fresh rubber, and I just need to knock the corners off a little bit, and it seems better. Went for the Hope pedals. They're lovely. Never had a problem. I've stripped them and greased them once, but they are flawless. Pegs are great. I like their pegs because they're nice and smooth and they haven't got threads all the way up. So I think it protects your shoes a little bit better and still gives you the grip you want. I got it from Treads. They seem to be okay. I think I waited a week longer than I expected for it. And the handlebars, I've changed those to race face because I think they came back to me a little bit more. They might be the same bars. I thought there was like a degree or something difference in the way it came back, because I'm not the tallest. This is a medium frame, so I wanted a little bit more angle back towards me. So yeah, 27.5, 2.3 tyres, loads of grip. I've kept the standard seat. That's never given me a problem. The dropper post has never given me a problem either. Standard dropper post. A drop of oil each time I clean it. It's been fine. I don't put loads of pressure in there. I just put enough that it goes up. And by that I mean it doesn't fire you to the moon. That's all you need. There's a collet inside. If you put loads of pressure in it and you skyrocket your helmet off just for fun, you're going to break them. You're going to break the collet. They're not bulletproof. So just take them easy. got a little pack on the front. That's mainly for my night riding and my snacks. Put my pasties in there. Now it's not quite big enough for a pasty, but I put in there maybe some chocolate, but mainly my battery for my light. Right, the drivetrain is race face, and the hub was SRAM. It's all SRAM, 11 speed GX, and they're not too expensive to replace, but I wish because it was my first 11 speed, I didn't expect the standard SRAM chain to wear out as fast as it did, and it cost me a chain ring and a cassette, because no way did I think within a year that the chain would wear 1 millimetre. So once it had gone past that 0.7 mark, there was no returning for the rest of it. It was all scrap. Now this one's almost getting to 0.7, it's about 0.6 on the wear gauge. I might put my old stuff back on and use that, see if I can get away with it without skipping. There's a few things you need to look out for, especially if you're cleaning your bike. I never pressure wash anything. Never ever going to pressure wash a bike. Even on a standard hose, the stuff gets everywhere. I've had to replace some bearings, and mainly because of Specialized not being very good at preventing water to get in. This tube here goes all the way down and is hollow to this bearing here, and there's a little hole just in the back of the knuckle here, and the water got in and took out those bearings. I plugged the holes. I made little plastic grommets and plugged the holes just to stop water travelling down here into the bearings again. And the frame bearings in here, there wasn't an O-ring, there was just a plastic guide, so there's a little spacer in the back. You won't be able to see it, it's so close. I actually turned a little groove in the spacer and then found an O-ring that would just go over it, so there is an O-ring between the knuckle and the frame now, to protect that. Now a lot of bikes, you might go, oh, how many bearings have you got in that setup? Oh, there's 2 there, 2 there, 2 there, whatever. It's way more than that. There's 2 there, there's 2 there, there's 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, 2 on this side, 2 on the other side. There's so many bearings, and at the bottom, so they've doubled the bearings up, so it's a very strong, stiff linkage, you know, so she's very, very stiff back end. I've just recently put a little bit more air in. I was running about 40% sag. I have gone to about 30-35 because I wanted to get my cranks out the ground a little bit more. These bolts, oh my god, they're so tight. These things are so tight. You have to have a breaker bar and a block of wood against it to stop the cranks from rotating. Yeah, nightmare. If you was buying a new Specialized, I'd scrap this chain straight away. Just throw the standard SRAM chain away, straight away. KMC, stick it on straight away. You'll probably find that your cassettes will last a lot longer. 4-pot brakes work great, but you must use them. If you're too light on them, then they'll glaze and you'll lose efficiency and they'll stop working, full stop. I use organic pads in these. I did try metallic in the back and I thought it was going to rip my disc off. It oscillated, made a load of noise. Been tempted to go over to Hope floating discs, but now I've really understand that you have to use them. The more you use them, the better they are. So, you know, you might, if you're doing a lot of flat trails and you're not really using the brakes, they'll start to glaze up and not work. But you get into some serious downhills and start using them, then they'll come alive, get some heat into them, they'll work really well. Front shock, I am front end sensitive, so there's a couple of modifications I've done to the shocks, mainly to get a better feel. This is a fast component shock. core, which has got high speed and low speed compression, so I can fine tune it. That's what I found. I found that it was skitty more anywhere than anywhere else, because I used to do a lot of riding over Cannock Chase. The pebbles just felt so skitty. As soon as I put that in and changed it, it was great. The other thing I did as well was change the air spring in here. It was a single solo air in there, and now I've gone to the debonair. With the solo air I had 3 spaces in here, but as soon as I changed it over to the debonair, I was able to take all the spaces out, so it's a lot more progressive. The debonair spring gives you a lot more support in the upper travel, so you're not diving so much. Then I put the race face handlebars on, and the standard Specialized grips were a little bit skinny. I probably have got bigger hands, and the nuke proof ones, they're only 13 quid. I do wear a little bit, but I always wear gloves. If you don't wear gloves and you've got sweaty hands, these probably stop working, but with gloves they're fine. Probably got about 95 to 100 psi in the front. Got me little low profile bell, probably the most expensive bell you can get, but it's nice and low. And then the little remote for my Garmin 830, and you just put the lanyard around and it goes on like that. So it's quite nice and low profile. This was bought with the MTB kit, so it came with a different bracket. Yeah, so it comes with a different bracket. You could have it out forward, but out back. I thought it was more likely to get hit if I go over the bars and land on rocks. It's going to get hit from here, so I'll set it inboard, so it's nice. It can't get hit, even if it goes upside down. It's pretty well protected. Rear shock. I've had some work done on this, because you're okay using it in that position. That's fully open. That's meant to be half closed, or what does it say? Mid, firm. Firm is solid. Firm is completely locked out. If you use it in firm, you'd have to tell me if anybody else has experienced this. I think that drives in air into the system, because it just can't take it on that setting. There's no movement whatsoever. It's completely rigid, so I think that stuffs the shock up. So I only ever use that on some light technical trails that are uphill. Never close it off completely. Every single time I've done that, it's always led to problems, like a knocking. Feels like there's play in the system, and it isn't. I think it draws air into the oil somewhere, and then that compresses. I could be wrong, but I sent it off to be serviced by TF Tuned, and they've meant to have done some modifications in there to sort that out. Now the swap box, or the swap box, is not waterproof. So if you're washing your bike, take your stuff out, because this fills up with water inside here. This has got a seal around it, but I think it comes in through here. These aren't well protected, so if you're washing your bike and you're spraying stuff round, it comes down and fills that up. Maybe a bit of silicone sealer, but these need to move sometimes. Sometimes if I'm on a really big ride, I might put a little container on there and just put gels in, or some chocolate or something like that. The engagement on the hub, if I was going to do an upgrade, another next upgrade would be to improve the engagement. I noticed that a lot on half cranks, on technical stuff where you just need to put half a crank in. I think if they got a better engagement, it would make the difference, because it doesn't look a lot, but that feels a lot to me. So that's what I'd do. I've got ProGuard on the back, which does a good job of keeping all your linkages clean, the shock clean. it doesn't really protect. It protects up to your seat post. It doesn't really protect your arse. It keeps some of it off. So it's definitely worth having that. And the rock guard on the front, absolutely brilliant. If you're just doing YouTube, if you're just doing riding, I think it's a necessity to keep the stuff out of your face, off your bike. Brilliant. I wouldn't go to it for anything smaller. I think people are realising how good they are, and it's a lot more common to see a big guard on the front now, where people would go, oh, what you got on there? Do you think you got a motocross? No, it's just keeping crap out my eyes. When we went to North Wales Madness, you see the difference between Mark with a little guard and then mine. It's night and day. So yeah, I don't like crap in my eyes. I've got to wear glasses, so it makes a huge difference. The other thing I had to do, which I made a video about, was making this Kydex guard here. This gap in the frame is a right stone collector, and if the suspension's moving up and down, it can trap stones in there, and I've got 2 small chips in the lacquer, and I wasn't going to have any of it. That happened really quickly when I had the bike from new. Wasn't happy about it at all, and Specialized know about it, and they've done some modifications, but they're still letting the side down on that regard, being a right trap of stones in here. So I made that. It's bodged on with a bit of electrical tape and a piece of foam to keep it off, and that works brilliantly. Never had a problem. I ain't gonna get a stone caught down there again. I think that should be standard on them all. So the other thing that I'm really going to recommend, I used to use standard oil. It just sounded so gritty. I cleaned it all off, degreased it all, used some petrol, and then went over to Squirt. It's a dry wax lubricant, and since I've done that, everything lasts longer. So much better. It really is so much better. I've just washed my bike. You know when you've washed your bike and you think it's clean, and you do that with your chain, and it just feels like grit. It goes crunch, crunch, crunch. Since I've used this stuff, it doesn't happen. Wash is clean, it's been washed. I can still feel the wax on it. Every time I wash the bike, give it a good scrub. I don't use a chain box anymore with those rollers and anything. Just use a standard brush, give it a good clean. The amount of muck that used to collect on the jockey wheels was absolutely ridiculous. There's hardly anything on them now. Everyone's sweet. So, get it wet. Do this the night before you go riding. Because it's got to get dry. Once it's dry, stops anything from getting in there. So much better. So much better lubricant. Squirt. About £10 a bottle. We'll never go back to wet lube, dry lubes, whatever it is. Wax lube is the way to go. Buy some of that. You will thank me for it. One of the best things you can do. So my lights, I like these moon lights. This one's just got a standard bracket. I had to heat this up and modify it because obviously it's quite a big suspension. I had to get this up high, so I had to heat the bracket up to bend it up to get it nice and low profile. It was so much further down before, but now that's great. Loads of different settings, very bright, brilliant for night riding. Now for the front, this is quite a cheap eBay light, to be honest. I think it was like 40 quid 5 years ago. Used it for years. 8.4 volt battery, stick it in there, little remote, and away you go. 3000 lumens this beast is, which was brilliant for most things. I used to do quite a lot of road riding, but when I used to do some night riding around Wire Forest, you needed a higher one. So I've got one on the helmet. So I've got the Hope light that I put on the helmet, and then this 3000 lumen one I modified. So I had to strip it all down, take the horrible plastic O-ring style. It was like this. You just moved all the time, endlessly moving all the time. So I set it up in the miller and drilled and tapped these holes. Got Hope will sell you the bayonet as a spare. It was slightly different from what this one was, and the fitting, the screws. So it was a little bit more complicated than I was hoping it would be, but still done it. And I can put that on there and set it up to where I want. So it's 3000 lumens just for lighting up the whole trail, and then the one on the helmet gets into the holes. You know, when the contrast is there, it just looks like a black hole. You can't see the bottom of it until you're right there. The one on your helmet, you can get that height and it sees everything. Absolutely brilliant. And the battery I put in the backpack for that, the Hope light, and then this one, just set that up there and the battery goes in there. I can put 2 of the batteries in there. You probably end up buying a battery a year, because just the way the batteries are. They're like the Sony camera batteries, but without the Sony camera battery externals on it. Probably be better to go over to lithium ion, but I don't know if if it would be compatible for it. At 8.4 volts, the Hopes are like 7.4, and I haven't even tried the Hope light on this. I think it's a different connection. Yeah, so the tyres are set up tubeless. Did it with a standard pump, standard stirrup pump. Didn't have to use a bottle or anything like that. Stance Pro Sealant. I've had 1 pinch flat at Malvern's, but other than that I haven't had a single failure in 3 years. This bike's 3 years old now, so that just shows you how good the system is. The combination of the tyres. I don't think I've even seen a lot of fluid come out. I've burped a tyre once when I crashed, but it still stayed up. There was grass caught in between the rim, but it still stayed up. Added some frame protection. It's quite thick where I scuff parts, so it's already had some, but I added a bit more because you can see where my feet catch. This should really have been back here, because it's the heel of my shoe hits there. And I added a bit more underneath here as well, to protect the frame. So, and the guard, because it's a carbon frame, having a big guard does stop you're getting big stuff hitting up here, as it's got the bash guard under here as well. I don't think I do anything that's aggressive enough so far to need one underneath. Right, so I think that's enough about the bike. If there's any particular questions you want answering, that's great. Give me a shout. I'll try and let you know what I can. When I changed the crank, I started to get a little bit of a noise on the frame, and I thought it was coming from the crank. This happens. Hear the noise? I don't know why. If this changes position, it makes a noise. If it doesn't, it's really odd. You wouldn't have thought that would make a difference. I'm going, what the hell's going on? And all it is that skipping a tooth. It makes a right row. Bent the hanger once, I've got a spare one, but I was managed to straighten it. Pads can be a bit tricky to get in, so I did a little Facebook video. I made these shims. So these shims work as a pair when you're bleeding your brakes, or you're servicing them, or you're taking them apart, or whatever. Even to get your pads, the pistons back in, seated. Nightmare. All the SRAM bleeding blocks and bits, they don't work properly. All they do is, because of the diameter of the pistons, and they're shallow, so they cant and kick, and then they lock. And when you jab in the spacer, it just seizes them up. They're made to kick them out, and they're only like a hard plastic, like phenolic or something like that. So I just made these spacers. You take the caliper off, put these in against, and you just push them together, and it's like magic. Dave had the same problem with his. He could not get the pistons back. Came here, took the caliper off, put these in, put the pads in, 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes, done. And he's going, "You've done it?" "Yeah." I say, and he spent hours on it, messing about, trying to get them in. And it was just because they cant out of square and then they jam in the bores. This just squares them up. If anybody's interested in buying some of these from me, send me a message, and I can do that, and I'll start putting them on eBay, and it'll make your life so easy. They're so light, you can put them in your backpack, you know, and it'd have been stuffed if he'd gone down to the metal. He couldn't retract his pistons. You'd been stuffed even if you had a set of pads, like I carry a couple of sets of pads. 5 minutes and you're back up and running. I think it's quite a common thing. So give us a shout if you want a set. They're not going to be expensive, probably 10 quid posted to your door, but let me know. Obviously more people who buy them, the cheaper they're going to be. So if you've got an interest, let me know. But other than that, I love the bike. It's a little bit heavy, but it handles everything I can throw at it and more. Hope you like this one. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bloody gorgeous weather.